These stories are guaranteed to make you feel good about your own life. Hello and welcome to r/Ella. My name is Ella, and today I'm going to be reading you wild wedding Reddit stories because I just got engaged. And I'm going to be doing my makeup at the same time. So let's jump into it. Coming from Am I the Asshole, titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to speak to my sister because she wouldn't let my daughter be a flower girl at her wedding as planned, causing multiple family members to boycott it too? I'm going to say off the title alone, you seem a little unreasonable, but the fact that multiple family members joined you in your boycott makes me think that you're probably in the right. Let's find out. So I, 28 female, have a sister, 26 female, who got married last month. I'm going to be blunt. My sister has always been one of those people who has to have everything perfect, to the point sometimes it was hard to be around her. But she was my little sister, and I have no other siblings. So I always made excuses when she'd hurt me, when I was doing things right in her eyes. I don't really know what that means. I was kind of nervous when she asked me and my daughter, 4, to be a bridesmaid in February, because I knew she was going to be a massive bridezilla. Over the past few months, we have had to practice multiple dances, pay for very expensive dresses, and put up with her tantrums. I told her from the start, if she was in any way nasty to my child, I wouldn't stand for it. She assured me she'd never be nasty towards her favourite person in the world, while her now husband's little cousin, in brackets 8, started coming to dance practice with her mum. And my sister started to ask her to do little things, like show my daughter how to throw the petals. I honestly thought she'd make them both flower girls for a while, but when she started to make my daughter sit out and have the little girl do her poem, I knew what was going to happen. But I prayed I was wrong. I invited her out for coffee a few weeks before the wedding and asked her what was going on. She told me she was glad I brought it up because she was looking for the right time. Apparently, my 4-year-old wasn't doing everything right. She was afraid she was going to mess up her vision by saying the wrong thing or not doing the dance right on the day. I told her she was doing a pretty good job and everyone was always praising her. Sister giggled and said, well, it's not their wedding now, is it? So it's not up to us what's good enough for her wedding. I asked her straight up if she thought her niece wasn't good enough to be in her wedding. She replied, not as something big as a flower girl, but to attend. Wait, let me just pause. That's ridiculous. How could a 4-year-old not be good enough to even attend a wedding? She's like, no, she is good enough to be there and watch in the audience. I asked her how I was going to break it to my daughter who's excited about being in the wedding. She just told me to figure it out. I told her I'd give her a day to rethink her decision. If not, we wouldn't be attending and speaking to her ever again before I left. Wow. That's a bit intense. I don't blame her though. 2 days passed. I couldn't put it off any longer, so I broke the news to my child. Even though I tried my hardest and sugarcoated it as much as possible, the news still broke her heart. She cried herself to sleep. So did I and my husband. Well, after a week, when I was a no-show for anything, my sister started to panic and started to get everyone to talk to me, even drop off gifts for my daughter. When I told them why, a good number of our family, including the bridesmaids, dropped out. We ended up going for a few weeks away with no phones. When we came back, my sister had sent me multiple letters and emails apologizing. Her in-laws and husband have called me an a-hole for doing what I did. I couldn't find my concealer anywhere, but I found this one down the back of my toilet. I hope it looks good. The question is, am I the asshole for refusing to speak to my sister because she wouldn't let my daughter be a flower girl? And I think the answer is no, because it's not like she just wouldn't let her be a flower girl. It's that she made her a flower girl, got her to go to practice as a 4-year-old, put in a lot of effort that would be hard at that age to be a flower girl. You know, she isn't just showing up on the day, which I feel like that's what it usually is, right? I think you're completely right for not wanting to talk to that sister anymore and not having her be around your child anymore. She clearly has no care for how your child feels. She didn't have her as a flower girl because she loves her so much, like she claims that it's her favorite person. It's obviously about image, and your daughter just didn't fit the image that she wanted anymore, and so she cut her like she was nothing. And the people leaving has nothing to do with you. You cannot be the asshole for that. They're leaving probably because they care about your child and that upset them. And I think the fact that they dropped out, it makes a lot of sense. If they are her bridesmaids, the idea that they're going to know this child very well is probably quite high, especially considering you guys are doing like dance practice and flower throwing practice. Whatever that is. These people, if they didn't know the child before, they definitely do now. And so for her to do something cruel as to just drop the daughter, that's going to piss some people off. And yeah, they're going to leave. My question to your sister is, who is she doing this for? Why is she putting on such a performance? It feels very much like a show, but I can't for the life of me rack my brains to think of who she is performing for. Maybe her in-laws? I don't know. Why does it have to be so perfect? I feel like in those moments in a wedding, if the flower girl messes up something that she says or doesn't throw the flowers in the perfectly correct way, that's a memory and it's funny and it's fun. You know what I mean? That's your cousin or your niece and you love them, and this is just, it's not that deep. I don't understand why this woman is making it so deep, and she's actually taking a lot of what is beautiful about a wedding out of it and instead making it some kind of spectacle. And who is spectating? That's what I want to know. Okay, so we have an edit. My brother-in-law saw this post and told my sister, who cried reading all your comments. How do I know? Because they showed up at my job knowing I wouldn't want a scene. They begged me to delete the post. So they begged her to delete the post before people saw it. Again, who is spectating? Who are they worried about? And then finally my sister said she might be pregnant. I fear that's irrelevant. I fear that's irrelevant. I don't think pregnancy gives you an excuse to be mean to a little kid and just disregard them like they're not human beings and like they're little puppets that don't fit into your show. But I might be a bit cutthroat there. I told her even if she is pregnant, doesn't wash away all the shitty things she's done, and I hope her husband's siblings never treat her child the way she treated mine, because I don't plan to be a part of her life. She burst into tears saying she was sorry and she loves my daughter. I told her to leave before I called security, and her husband tried to talk to me alone because I was making her so upset. And everyone was cold towards them because of me. I told them, no, everyone was cold because Cinderella and Prince Charming forgot that after treating everyone like shit, that no one wanted to be in their happily ever after. They didn't like my mocking tone and raised their voice at me. She is absolutely not in the wrong. I don't understand this notion of like, it's my day, so I can be an asshole. No, it's your day. So people are showing up for you. So people are celebrating you. And you should have gratitude for that. For anybody who shows up at my wedding, I would be so grateful. I mean, so I'm getting married in a different country, right? Because the same country that my boyfriend's from. And all of my family are from here, from the UK. So what am I doing? I'm looking into hotels over there, looking at prices, making sure everyone can afford it. I'm making sure that my wedding is going to be at a time of year where the flight prices are down so that everyone can get there okay. I'm being conscious of the fact that I'm asking them to travel. And so I am trying my best to accommodate for that. Like, I just can't imagine this kind of notion of it's my day, so I can treat everyone who's showing up for me like fucking crap. That's ridiculous. My boss, who knows the situation and has a 5-year-old herself, told them to leave, so she's on my side. My sister's mother-in-law reached out to my parents asking for everyone to meet up on neutral terms so we can all work out our differences. I'm gonna go to this dinner party because I want to hear their story and officially tell them to leave me alone. I will update you guys. Update. My sister's photographer saw this post and reached out to me on here. She knew my full name and she gave her Instagram to confirm. This goes deeper than my daughter not dancing right. Apparently, she overheard my sister's mother-in-law and aunt-in-law talking in the bathroom. They used slurs against my daughter and husband. They called me the black man's whore. Oh, holy shit. The photographer said they were both drunk, but brother-in-law also made jokes around my sister earlier in the day, which she smiled at. So yeah, my daughter wasn't Flower Girl because unlike me, her aunt or the other Flower Girl, she doesn't have blue eyes and blonde hair. If you're reading this, Sarah and Frank, you and your family. My child is too good to be around trash like you both. Stay the fuck away from us, and if anyone in my family knew the real story and didn't tell me, fuck you too. Oh, well, this took a very, very unexpected turn. Who are these people? I really have to, they have to be rich, right? And I don't mean that rich people are racist, but just it feels a little bit pompous, and it feels a little bit like the sister is trying to be someone that she's not. I was not expecting the absolute shuttle bus of racism. The thing that sticks out to me is that I don't even think this is how the sister thinks, and it just shows how much of a weak spined person she is. And I honestly think that these people must be rich or have some kind of status or something to offer this sister, because what she said was it didn't fit my vision. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think this is her vision she's worried about. I think it's the eyes of someone else. And I think it's the in-laws. She's trying to fit in with these in-laws. And I think that, you know, she doesn't think that just being herself is a way to fit in. Okay, edit 4. Thanks everyone for the love and support, but especially thank you to the photographer who came forward. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention before I let them back into our lives. You're the real one. Edit 5. So I thought I'd answer a lot of questions that keep getting asked because I'm tired and will be going to bed soon. My parents are fully on my side. So are multiple other family members that haven't been cut off. My daughter doesn't know the full story, but as a treat to all of us, we plan to take her to Disneyland for Christmas, and my parents have said they will join us. Oh, lovely. I think that's the thing. That's what life is about. Sounds really dramatic, but you know, that time with family and going on holidays with family and all of that is no status. And I'm just assuming, she literally hasn't even said that the in-laws have status, but it just, from the way that the story's going, I feel like the sister is getting something to gain out of it. But just those wholesome family trips around Christmas time, things like that are irreplaceable and priceless. And completely through her own fault, her sister is missing out on those most special things about life. As for my sister, some people have mentioned she might be in an abusive relationship. Well, her husband is from old money. And his family is very well connected in England. Girl, is he the royal family? Who well connected in England? I think it's so funny because you think about Americans or other countries looking at England, I feel like they think about like posh and I just think like I can't even imagine someone being well connected in England. Crazy. Which is something she always wanted. So I don't know. Yes. Oh my God. I read this girl like a book. I could see it. It was the way that she was so passive, you know. She was allowing her in-laws to make horrible comments about her family and she wasn't joining in, which means, you know, I didn't think it was really her views, but also she was just smiling and passively. And that's going to wreck you, girl. You're going to get to where you thought that you always wanted to be, and you're going to realize it's not all it was cracked up to be, and you lost everything for it. And I honestly, I don't bask in people's misfortune, but I wish I could be there when you have that moment of realization that you have binned off everything that actually matters in life for something it means nothing, which is something she always wanted. So I don't know, but if she is in a bad relationship and afraid, it's up to my husband to forgive her, not me. I mean, I don't know where people are getting bad relationship or abuse from. I think that's reading too far into it. It's definitely a possibility, but there's nothing here to really say that that's what's going on. So to say that that's what's going on is, I don't see it. I found out that 3 family members knew, including a bridesmaid that dropped out, knew. I've seen a lot of people making fun of the fact that me and my husband cried ourselves to sleep the night my daughter found out. We didn't cry about her not being a flower girl, nor did we cry while she was awake. We cried because our child was extremely hurt, and there's no worse feeling than your child thinking they're not good enough for someone they love. For the commenter who was extremely nasty about my husband crying, a father's love is equal to a mother's. Men do and are allowed to have emotions. Do better. That's terrible. I mean, of course they're crying because their child is upset. They're not crying because you got kicked out of the wedding. That's ridiculous. This next one is coming from r/RelationshipAdvice and is titled, "My ex-fiance wants to meet up after leaving me at the altar 4 years ago." Let's just dive into this one. Basically, 4 years ago, I, female 29, was supposed to be getting married to my fiance at the time, Jay. Everything was going perfect. I was in my dress, had my makeup on. I was pretty much ready to walk down the aisle when Jay's best man pulled me to the side and said Jay had gone. He had gotten into a car and left. No one was able to get a hold of him. I came home to our apartment and all of his stuff was gone. He's been pretty much a ghost ever since. He left me and I had to force myself to move on. I ended up going on our honeymoon with my best friends, which was the best decision ever, and then put myself in therapy to heal the horrible trust issues I now have. I haven't heard from him once. Until today. I guess he got back in contact with an old mutual friend who gave him my number. Jay texted me and said he wants to meet up and apologize. He says he has a lot to explain to me about what happened that day. I'm torn. I swore Jay was a dead memory, but my curiosity and desire to get closure with him is pestering me. My current boyfriend supports me whatever I decide, and I feel out of respect to him and how wonderful he's been, I should ghost Jay. I'm very confused. I never expected to hear from Jay again. I have no idea what to do. Please help. I think the tough decision there is between what she wants to do for her boyfriend and what she wants to do for herself, right? Because I think that her boyfriend's probably a big reason why she's deciding maybe she shouldn't go and get that closure. And I understand that. I mean, he was the one that's been there for her since. He's probably helped pick up those pieces. He's probably helped heal her from that trauma. But if he truly loves and trusts her, then I'm sure that he would be okay with them meeting up and understands that it's something that she needs to get through that trauma, to get that closure. I don't think it's the type of thing that'll open up old wounds. Because I think when someone does something so horrific to you, I don't know actually, because I was going to say if someone does something so horrific to you, you don't really have any desire to rekindle. But I think if someone does do something like leave you at the altar, there probably is a part of you that wants that validation from that person still. I mean, that's not only humiliating, it's not only breaking trust, but that has got to mess with your self-confidence. Why was I left at the altar? You know what I mean? I'm thinking now I'm engaged. That makes me feel very loved. You know what I mean? It makes me feel like someone looked at me and said, yeah, I know you in and out. We've lived together. We've spent so much time knowing each other deeply. I know you almost like nobody else. I know you in some ways even better than you know yourself. And I want that for the rest of my life. Like, I want absolute confidence booster. Hello. And then to just have that person leave you at the altar would make you think, okay, so they actually, when it came down to it, they decided I am not what they want. They had cold feet and realized that spending the rest of their life with me is not something they want. I don't know, that has got to affect your confidence. In some ways, it's got to make you feel unlovable, right? And so then when you run back into that person or they come back up, there might still be a part of you that wants to prove to yourself that they actually did want you. But also, you know, if they come and they tell you why they did what they did, that can help alleviate some of those feelings as well. So let's find out. Let's get into the update. First off, I just want to thank everyone for the advice. I honestly wrote the post to just vent my frustration and confusion and possibly get some advice. I honestly forgot about the post for a few days until my sister and I were talking, and she mentioned a post from some girl getting left at the altar and the ex showing up again years later. I told her it was mine, and she was pushing me then to do an update. I figure it might be therapeutic to write everything down as a final closing of the J chapter. This all happened 2 weeks ago. Against most of the advice, I did meet up with Jay. As a lot of you said, it did not add any value to my life. Also, it was a part of a 12-step program, and he was making amends. Okay. We met up at the park, and my boyfriend came up with me. He sat off to the side while Jay and I talked. I actually feel stupider after meeting with him. There were a lot of things in our relationship that would have had me out the door if I paid more attention and if he wasn't such a great liar. Basically, for the last year of our relationship, he was doing drugs and cheating on me. He had been struggling with his sexuality for years, and it's not surprising that it ended up this way, knowing the truth. His family are incredibly homophobic and horrible people. I wanted nothing to do with them when we were together, but he insisted on them being around, just for the big life events, like our wedding. The drugs were something to get him through the day and act like he was in love with me, when he was actually in love with someone else. He had met his boyfriend at work, and I had actually met him a few times when I'd drop off lunch for Jay. When our wedding approached, his boyfriend said he needed to choose, and Jay chose him. So he packed his bags up and pretended everything was great until his boyfriend picked him up, and they moved 2 towns over. I asked him if he was still with his boyfriend, and he said no. He thought he could quit the drugs once he was free of his family and lying, but he couldn't. His boyfriend found out and left him. He kept going, getting high and hooking up with randoms. One of his regular hookups ended up overdosing while they were asleep in the same bed, and died. He realized he had to get sober. He apologized for not just being honest with me and leading me on like he did. He wished he could go back and be truthful because I would have been the most accepting of him being gay out of everyone. He said he missed me when he left because even though he didn't love me romantically, I was his best friend. It was a lot to take in. I told him, while I'm glad he's okay and he's doing better, I'd prefer for us not to have any contact moving forward, but I do forgive him. He said he understood and he was only in town for a few more days and he'd be gone for good again. I'll admit, when I got home I cried. My boyfriend held me and ordered me my favourite takeout. Oh my god, sorry to break out of it, but honestly, dream come true. I wish every time I cried my boyfriend would me takeout. We'd have takeout like twice a day. It would be awesome. He's been really the best and didn't pressure me to talk about anything until I was ready. So if I got anything out of the worst day of my life, it's led me to who I am now. Well, I think there's so many emotions in that. It's honestly made me feel, takeout. Somebody ordered me takeout because I'm crying. No, okay, it's so sad. Because I feel bad for them both. I feel bad for him because he was clearly in some kind of, he didn't know what to do. He was dealing with some really hard battles emotionally, which is why he acted the way he did. But at the same time, what he did was so hurtful to another person. He just claimed that he may not have loved her romantically, but she was his best friend. Why would you ever do something so horrible to a best friend as not to leave them? I mean, if he was in love with someone else and he was struggling with his sexuality, that's so valid. But to pack your bags knowing you're going to leave and then leave her the day of her wedding just before she's about to walk down the altar is so heartless. And she has to carry that now for the rest of her life. What a heinous way to leave someone. Okay, let's move on before I cry. Trigger warning, guys, for this next one. This next one does have mentions of SA. If that's something you're not comfortable with, that's completely fine. You can just move along to the next video. That's absolutely fine. But let's get into it. This next one is coming from r/RelationshipAdvice and is titled, I, 50 female, told my daughter, 24 female, that I won't attend her wedding if her biological father is there. But now she says that I'm being stuck in the past. I would appreciate some advice on the current situation I find myself in, and I am hoping an outsider viewpoint can offer some clarity. For some context, about 24 years ago, I was SA'd by a close friend of mine and got pregnant by the encounter. I was inconsolable for months after the event. To make matters worse, I found out I was pregnant when I was 20 weeks. And where I live at the time, it was illegal to get an abortion after the first trimester. My husband had really been my rock and my support during that time, and I do not know how I would have ended up if it's not for him. He said that I could put it up for adoption or I could keep the child and he would raise it like our other children. I decided not to give it up for adoption, but raising the kid was hard. I'm half Polish and half German, and he is half German and half Russian. We both have pale skin, light hair and blue eyes, as well as being fairly tall. I'm about 178 centimeters or around 5'10", and he is 191 centimeters or about 6'3". However, our daughter Luna is about 5'3", has dark hair and a brown complexion like her biological father. I often heard snide remarks about me being an unfaithful wife because it was obvious that she was not my husband's child. It was especially hard for me when Luna was young because she looked so much like her dad. My husband took care of my daughter most of the time, since I had flashbacks whenever I saw her face from when I was assaulted. As she grew up, it died down a bit, but I would still get these horrible panic attacks when I saw her wearing boys' clothes and short hair. Since I was prone to having panic attacks, Luna ended up being closer to my husband than she was to me. Also, she often ended up getting a little more than her siblings from my husband as some compensation because of me. We never told her she was the product of SA because I was too ashamed and my husband did not want her feeling different from her siblings. I often told her that me and her biological father got into an altercation and never spoke to one another ever again. About 2 years ago, she got one of those DNA test items and found out she had a relative in the system. Said relative got Luna in touch with her bio dad and they started talking despite my protests. He apparently wanted to speak to me about something he wanted to tell me, so Luna attempted to persuade me to speak with him. I made her aware that me and her father shouldn't ever be in the same room together. Now Luna is getting married to a lovely young man. Some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, so she is able to have a decent sized wedding. The original plan was to have my husband walk her down the aisle, but he had gotten into a bad accident, leaving him in a wheelchair until his legs are strong enough to support his weight again. However, this is not her idea of a picture-perfect wedding. Here we go again with the picture-perfect wedding. What is that about? God forbid your dad be in a wheelchair. It's ridiculous. So she invited her biological father to have the honour of being the bride's father. Her wedding invitation not only invited my R-wordist, but she totally disrespected the man who raised her. Although I or a bridesmaid could have pushed him down the aisle, she thinks it would not fit the vibe of the wedding. I truly do not understand this logic. My husband looked so shocked and upset that she would even think of this, but I was furious. I have a visceral hate for that man, and I let her know that I would not be anywhere near him. She told me this is what she wants, and there's no changing her mind. So I told her I would not be attending if he's there. She got upset and told me that I shouldn't hang on to the past, but I laid it into her that she doesn't know what happened between me and her biological father, so she shouldn't stick her nose in where it doesn't belong. Though I feel terrible about what I said and how I said it, and I can't be blamed for her being born or not knowing what happened since I never told her, I still feel as though my wishes should be respected. If I say I don't want to be in the same room as someone, I'm now okay with her contacting her father. I just do not want anything to do with him. Also, it's rude to replace your father with another man who you've barely known for 2 years because of something he couldn't control. That is a lot to unpack. Okay. Is it just me, or does the daughter sound like a teenager? Okay, I am the same age now as the daughter is in this story. I'm 24. I cannot imagine treating my mum this way. As a teenager, I mean, you don't really see, you think that you're right about everything. You can't really see anything from anyone else's perspective. You know what I mean? As a teenager, things are a little bit different. You haven't had enough life experience yet to understand that things might be a bit deeper than what you're imagining them to be. But as a 24-year-old, you've surely experienced enough about life. You're at a point where you're getting married. You should know that some people do things to you that are so bad that you don't want to speak to them ever again. I think that there are things that the daughter might be thinking and feeling that the mother probably hasn't even begun to think about. I mean, the daughter is hurt. I know that she came from such a traumatic experience in the mum's life, and that's obviously going to have such a big effect on their relationship. But I think the mum does have to realize that that daughter is her own whole person, And she probably holds her own traumas as well. Like the fact that she knows she doesn't look anything like her siblings and that her mum doesn't really want to be around her because of her dad. And from her point of view, she's probably thinking that this is something to do with some kind of falling out that her and her dad have had. She's probably wanting her parents to finally just hash it out, whatever argument they've had or whatever falling out that they've had. She probably is just like, you guys, like, mum, you just need to get over it. It's been such and such amount of time. She doesn't know it's coming from such a traumatized place. You know, she doesn't have any real idea of where this is coming from. And so she's just thinking, at this point, you know, I'm 24, suck it up, it's my wedding. And it is what it is. I do understand why are you just chucking away the guy who raised you as his own daughter? There's something so much more special. Not more special, but something so special about a relationship between a father and daughter when it's not the biological father, because that's a man who's put his own pride aside. Obviously not in this situation because it was SA, but from the daughter's point of view, this is a man who has put his own pride aside in order to be there for you as a father. She should at least be thinking that the dad has stepped up to be there and be her father, just as he did all of his other kids, in fact, even a little bit more. And the way you repay him is the minute that your biological dad's in this scene, he's the one that gets to walk you down the aisle. That's so mean. Well, I don't know. I just feel like she's not thinking straight. And obviously it goes without saying, I am so sad for this mother. The trauma that she's gone through, and then having to carry a child to full term, then deciding to keep that child in your house and raise them, and going through all that just for the child to turn into an adult and turn around and push your abuser in your face and say, be friends with him, mom, get over it. Is a pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. That is absolutely heartbreaking. But let's move on to the update. Before I get started on the update, I have a few things I have to address. A lot of people have questioned me on why I did not tell my daughter that she was a product of SA. The only answer is that I was ashamed of myself. For some context, before I got married to my husband, I actually was very close friends with my attacker. We grew up together in a small community and our families were close. Our parents even wanted us to get together. He was always interested in me, but I didn't give it a chance until we went to university. I broke it off with him and started dating my husband, but I never cut him off because we were very close. He invited me over to drink. This was normal for us. And when I started to get tipsy, he graped me. I was very traumatized by the situation and tried to get him jailed, but I couldn't. He had a very good reputation, so everyone believed him, even my own mother, when he said that I had willingly came over and did it with him. I eventually stopped pursuing because of the social pressure, which only got worse when I found out I was pregnant. I eventually left that place with my husband and kids to live somewhere else. That's the thing, I think, is especially in the past, I think it's getting better now. A lot of people have expected that abusers, PDF files, all have a certain look or feel around them, that they can't just be upstanding people in your community, that they can't just be people that you feel close to and like to be around. The truth is, most of the time that is the case, and that there are people that blend in so well. There are people who are so well liked, which is what makes it so hard for people to come forward and be believed when they do come forward, which is obviously was at play for this woman, sadly, or was at play for this woman. I like to believe that a lot of the time these people do eventually get found out. And as people these days are becoming a lot more aware and people are becoming more informed through the internet and social media, really, I think that it's getting harder for these people to hide in plain sight. But obviously for this woman, I mean, this happened over 20 years ago. I can imagine how this didn't go down very well for her and how people didn't believe her, because women tended to not be believed. I think that a lot has changed from social media, and that's a brilliant thing. I eventually left that place with my husband and kids to live somewhere else. After I gave birth, my husband suggested therapy, but I was scared of being judged again, so I decided to bury it and try to forget about it. I just realized now that it was the worst way to go about it. But it's the only way I knew how, honestly. On to the update. After reading all the advice I'd gotten, I decided that I should stop running away and tell her everything. I first apologized for yelling at her for her suggestion, because in her mind it was an innocent suggestion. I told her that I wasn't angry at her, but how fast she was willing to replace her father because he was in a wheelchair, and that anger was compounded because she brought up her genetic father. I apologized again for acting childish and not like an adult. She asked me why I'm so against her genetic father being in the same vicinity as I am, and I just told her everything, from our initial friendship to her forced conception. She didn't believe me, like some Redditors predicted, but I can get a copy of the records of the court case and offered them to her if she needed to look. She looked stunned, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't. I apologized for keeping all of this from her because I didn't know how to bring it up. She told me she didn't believe me and would confirm with her genetic father, so I told her to take the time that she needed to process all of this. Later that day, she came again, crying and apologizing for not believing me. I held her and cried and apologized too. It was kind of therapeutic. We had a long chat and I did feel closer to her. When we were done, she said she wanted to take me out for a surprise to help me feel better in a couple of days, which I happily agreed to. I went to see her yesterday in this little restaurant with a patio that had private pay-for-use area for a maximum of 4 people due to COVID. As she ran up to me and gave me a hug, she led me to the patio where a biological father stood. She told me he was here to apologize and start my healing journey. I just wanted to leave, but he grabbed my hand and all those memories I tried to repress just came back. I started having a panic attack and lost balance, to which he tried to help me keep my balance, which worsened everything. I honestly don't remember how I left, but I ended up in my car just sobbing. I called my eldest son to pick me up. I was not fit to drive at that moment. Today my daughter called me up, upset that I ruined her surprise, but I was extremely upset with her. I asked her why she did that when she knows everything that happened between me and him, and she tried to use the excuse of my healing journey, but I wasn't having it. She admitted that she wanted me to get used to him because he's going to be walking her down the aisle along with my husband and doing the daddy-daughter dance. I told her that while I loved her and respected her decision to meet with him, I am not willing to be anywhere he is. She started complaining about how she wants all of her family to be there, and I'm still not forgiving, but I hung up the phone. My husband is aware of everything and stands by me, of not going to her wedding, but I don't want this. If my other children were to know, they would stand by me and tell the rest of their extended family, which is going to lead to my daughter getting disowned by the family. There is no need to give me advice on this because I will be seeking professional aid. Anyway, one good thing to come out of this is that I'm finally confident enough to seek therapy. Thank you for listening to my venting and commenting on my last post. Happy holidays. I hope you enjoy it with those you love. I think tell the extended family. If they wanted to kick her out of the family because of that, so be it. I think I had a lot of sympathy for her before, but now that she knows the full picture and she's still so heartless towards you, I know some things take some time to settle in and maybe she's not letting it, settle in, but taking it just at face value, like she has no care for you, for your trauma, and she's basically just like, get used to it. It sounds to me like she's had a bit of a cushy life and that she doesn't actually understand what any form of trauma kind of feels like or looks like, that she thinks that you can just kind of get over it if she just keeps you guys close to, you guys should just hang out. And she doesn't care at all for the fact that he's actually done that to you, that he's the woman that she's grown up with. Doesn't she understand that this is why you've acted the way that you've acted, and doesn't she have any sympathy or any care for you at all? It really doesn't feel like it. It feels like she thinks the world revolves around her and that because it's her wedding, you have to be friends with your attacker. Be friends with someone who causes you to have flashbacks and traumatized you. There is another update. Hello everyone. It has been a while since I last posted on this website. I would like to share some good news. Before going on about what happened with my daughter, my husband is able to walk again, albeit with a cane, but it's progress. We have been going to physical therapy to help strengthen his legs after his accident. It's good to see him happy and walking again. I've also been to therapy and met this wonderful and sweet therapist. My therapist is so patient and kind. Since my husband and I started together a few weeks ago, she has been extremely helpful. Bless her soul, and all these who recommended therapy. I would have missed out on such an experience, so my thanks goes out to you all. I love Reddit. As a community, I think it can be terrible, but I think it has so many people who have so many, who are so well-meaning, and it's such a community. I love it. Like most of you advised, my therapist also advised me to tell my other children about what went on between my youngest. For reference, I have 3 other children, 30 male, 27 female, and 27 male. My eldest boy is the only one that had a slight idea of what happened, but the other 2 were left unaware. I was quite scared and anxious to tell them what happened, especially because my mother and other family members initially reacted negatively. I invited them over around 2 weeks ago for a family dinner and told them everything that happened with the conception of my youngest to what happened recently. They were all silent and stared at me, so I became a little nervous until my daughter started crying. It was so upsetting for her, and my 2 sons were pissed off at my youngest and her father. They asked why I didn't tell them earlier, and I told them that I was just scared of how they could have reacted. My husband took them out of the dining room to talk, while my eldest daughter and I just cried together. When my boys and husband came back, they apologized for leaving early and left. My eldest daughter wanted to spend the night with me, but early in the morning she left with her brothers to do whatever. I didn't hear anything from them until last Wednesday. I was on Facebook when I saw my eldest daughter's post calling out my younger daughter for not only ignoring the man who raised her, but siding with her mothers and re-traumatizing her. My boys made similar posts as well, dragging her name through the mud. I had so many direct messages, but I didn't want anything to do with any of them, so I deleted the app off my phone. Since I don't like people knowing about my personal life, I asked my kids to take the post down. They said they did, but I haven't re-downloaded the app to find out. My youngest would-have-been husband came to my house with his mother to apologize. He told me he broke off the engagement because he couldn't be with someone who treated their parent like that. His mother let me know how disgusted she was with my daughter's actions, and someone like that would never be a part of her family. I was honestly stunned by all the support that I received. It's one thing to receive support online, but receiving support in real life was surreal for me. I'm a bit disappointed because I wanted my daughter's former fiance to join the family, as he is a lovely and sweet boy, but he has boundaries in a relationship that my daughter unfortunately crossed. As for my youngest, she is furious with me. She sent me a nasty voicemail saying that I ruined her life. Her friends and fiance basically cut her off. Needless to say, I felt terribly sorry because I had attempted to avoid this situation at all costs. I went through what she is experiencing, and I know exactly what it feels like. I told my therapist about this, and she told me that the difference is that while I was the victim, my daughter brought it on herself. My therapist is probably right, but I can't stop this feeling of dread. I tried to call my daughter, but once I heard her father on the line, I hung up. He took it upon himself to let me know that my daughter is depressed because of my actions. I feel terrible for treating my daughter like this. Ma'am, let's slow down a minute. You're not treating your daughter like anything. In fact, you have done nothing to your daughter. It's just other people waking up around you and realizing that your daughter isn't the type of person they want in their lives. You didn't do anything to cause that, except for just explain the situation you were in. That's it. I'll say it aloud for the people in the back. If telling the truth about you makes you look like a bad person, you're a bad person, and it's not the truth teller's fault. My husband says that I should focus on myself, and I'm trying to, but I just can't stop worrying. I don't think that my daughter is safe when she's with her biological father. This is all that's going on in my life right now. For all those asking, thanks for listening to me, and thanks for the advice again. I really appreciate everything. And I weirdly feel like this is a nice ending to the story of a tragic story. It's so saddening that even the happy ending doesn't feel happy. The fact that after all of these years, OP is able to tell her story. She doesn't have to hide her story from anyone anymore. And she is being accepted and she's being believed as of the victim that she is. It's really, really disappointing that her daughter isn't there for her in the way that she should be, but that's a decision that the daughter is choosing to make. She's choosing to be with OP's biological father, and I assume that OP's biological father. She is choosing to be with her biological father, and I do assume to some degree that the biological father has something to do with that. You know, the whole town and even OP's mother was on his side when this originally happened. I have to assume that he has some kind of charismatic persona that he puts forward that makes people believe him and believe he is not the bad guy. And for a daughter that didn't know him all of these years and probably wanting to reach out to him and probably had some little bit resentment towards her mum, you know, at that point, she's ready to take the bait from her dad. And clearly she did, even after finding out the truth. And I'm sure that the fact that all of this is now crumbling down on her because of her own actions, that is also leaving a lot of room for her biological dad to make her mum out to be a bad guy. Because it's all her mum's fault, of course. But putting that aside, I'm happy for OP. If you've made it this far, please leave a little purple heart in the comments or just leave me anything to let me know that you made it this far. I will definitely see it because if you scroll down now, there's probably about 0 comments there. And I will reply to you. And I'm just so grateful if you made it this far. This early in my journey. At this point, that's crazy. So thank you.